The Exalti delegation trembled as they stood before the massive view screen. 3 pairs of compound eyes watched with mounting anxiety as the alien ship approached their orbital station. First Officer Veridax clicked her mandibles nervously, a gesture that rippled through the assembled dignitaries. "Steady," commanded Admiral Krell, his carapace gleaming under the station's ambient light. "This is what we've prepared for since detecting their transmissions 50 cycles ago." Humanity's arrival had been anticipated with equal measures of dread and hope. The Exalti, an insectoid species that had achieved interstellar travel just 3 centuries prior, had stumbled upon Earth's signals accidentally. What they discovered terrified them. Broadcasts depicting a species of remarkable adaptability, technological ingenuity, and most disturbingly, an unquenchable drive to expand beyond their limitations. "The vessel is requesting docking permissions," announced Lieutenant Rix from her communication console. "Their translator appears to be functioning correctly." Admiral Krell's antennae twitched. "Grant permission." The humans called their vessel Prometheus, a mythological reference the Exalti translation matrix struggled to contextualize. As the airlock cycled, 6 representatives of humanity stepped onto the station. Unlike the chitinous forms of their hosts, these creatures moved with fluid grace on 2 limbs, their exposed skin glistening with moisture that made the Exalti instinctively recoil. Ambassador Orin Meridian led the human delegation, her towering frame nearly twice the height of the tallest Exalti, commanding immediate attention. Behind her walked Dr. Elizabeth Vega, xenobiologist, Commander Akachi Okoro, security chief, Professor Denzel Reed, xenolinguist, Engineer Lysithia Kuri, and Captain Matsuri Tanaka of the Prometheus. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, Ambassador Meridian began, her voice modulated to frequencies comfortable for Exalti hearing, "We extend greetings of peace and cooperation." The words were diplomatic, but Admiral Krell couldn't help noticing how the human's eyes darted around the chamber, cataloguing, analyzing, assessing. Later that evening, as the diplomatic reception wound down, Veridax approached Dr. Vega cautiously. "Your species fascinates us," she admitted, mandibles clicking in what humans might interpret as nervousness. "You've accomplished in mere centuries what took us millennia." Vega smiled, a gesture that exposed rows of blunt teeth. "Necessity drives innovation. Earth wasn't always kind to us. Yet you overcame your planet's challenges," Veridax observed. "We didn't overcome them," Vega replied, her expression shifting subtly. "We learned to weaponize them." Those words sent a chill through Veridax's exoskeleton. Within days, the initial diplomatic exchanges gave way to more substantive discussions. The humans offered technological exchange, medical advancements, energy innovations, agricultural techniques, all seemingly designed to address the Exalti's greatest vulnerabilities. Admiral Krell watched these proceedings with growing unease. In his private quarters, he reviewed historical footage the humans had provided. Their wars, their relentless adaptability, their conquest of their own world. "They offer solutions to problems we've struggled with for generations," his aide Trizix noted hopefully. "Yes," Krell responded, mandibles tightening, "but at what cost?" On the 7th day, the humans proposed a joint military exercise to enhance mutual understanding of defense capabilities, Commander Okoro explained, with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. As Admiral Krell watched the humans demonstrate their combat systems in a controlled environment, a realization crystallized in his mind. The Exalti had spent decades hoping to meet a species that might help them ascend to greater achievements among the stars. They had never considered that such a species might bring with it a shadow that could eclipse their civilization entirely. The integration of human technology into Exalti society began gradually, then accelerated with alarming speed. Within 8 months, human medical techniques had already increased Exalti life expectancy by 15%. Their agricultural innovations had eliminated food scarcity on 3 colony worlds. Their energy systems had revolutionized interstellar travel. Prosperity spread across the Exalti territories like never before. The Council of Elders, initially cautious about human involvement, now welcomed their advisors at every level of governance. Frecht, a young engineer working at the newly established Joint Technology Center on Ixalta Prime, couldn't contain his excitement as he manipulated holographic schematics with his forelimbs. "The efficiency of human fabrication techniques is extraordinary," he chittered to his colleague Naxi. "They accomplish in days what would take us seasons." Naxi's antennae drooped slightly. "Have you noticed how they watch us work? Always observing, always learning." "Of course they observe. We observe them too," Frecht replied dismissively. "That's how cultural exchange functions." But Naxi wasn't convinced. She had noticed something disquieting about her human counterparts. They absorbed Ixalti knowledge voraciously, yet shared their own innovations with careful calculation. Each technological gift seemed precisely calibrated, revealing just enough to demonstrate superiority while withholding crucial principles. Admiral Krell, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Defense after the previous commander's unexpected retirement, shared Naxi's concerns. He had watched how humans established themselves in key advisory positions throughout the Ixalti governance structure, how they subtly directed infrastructure development toward patterns that favored their physiology, how they encouraged dependency. When he raised these concerns to the Council of Elders, he was politely but firmly dismissed. "Commander Krell," Elder Zix's voice crackled with age and authority, "you're allowing paranoia to cloud your judgment. The humans have brought nothing but prosperity. Prosperity that relies entirely on their continued goodwill," Krell countered. "Their goodwill is demonstrated daily," another elder replied. "Ambassador Meridian has even agreed to establish permanent human settlements on our outer colonies to facilitate deeper technological integration." Krell's mandibles snapped in alarm. "Settlements? When was this decided?" "Yesterday's session," Elder Zix replied. "You were invited but did not attend," because he had received no such invitation. Later that evening, Krell sought out Naxi, whose security clearance gave her access to communication records between human vessels. "There's something wrong with their transmission patterns," she explained, nervously, showing him encrypted data packets. "They're sending far more information back to their homeworld than official channels account for." Krell studied the patterns, his compound eyes narrowing. "Can you decrypt any of it?" "Not without alerting them," Naxi responded. "Their cybersecurity protocols are embedded in all our systems now. They would know immediately." A week later, Fithi first human settlement ships arrived at Ixalti Colony Tertius. The Ixalti news networks showed jubilant scenes of cooperation as foundations were laid for a new city. Admiral Krell, watching from his office, noted something the cameras glossed over: the settlement's strategic position overlooking the colony's primary water supply. "They're not just integrating," he whispered to himself, "they're positioning." 5 years into the human Ixalti alliance, prosperity had become the expected norm. Human settlements now existed on 7 Ixalti worlds, and joint military exercises were conducted quarterly. The exchange programs had expanded, with young Ixalti scholars eagerly competing for coveted positions in Earth universities. Kyrix was one such scholar, a brilliant physicist whose research on quantum field manipulation had earned her a place at the prestigious Cambridge Institute. Her compound eyes had adapted to Earth's brighter sunlight, though she still required hourly hydration to prevent her exoskeleton from becoming brittle in the planet's lower humidity. It was during her 3rd semester that the accident occurred. Returning late to her laboratory to retrieve research notes, Kyrix found the door slightly ajar. Inside, Professor Harlow, her human mentor, was engaged in animated conversation with 2 uniformed individuals Kyrix had never seen before. "The Ixalti technological assimilation is proceeding faster than projected," Harlow was saying, her back to the door. "Their physiological limitations make them ideal test subjects for the gravitational manipulation protocols. The casualties from system failures appear natural. Their exoskeletons simply collapse under unexpected pressure variations." Kyrix froze, antennae quivering in shock. "And they suspect nothing?" one of the uniformed humans asked. "Why would they? They believe each technological gift represents our goodwill. They never question why we prioritize certain advances over others." Kyrix stepped backward silently, her mind racing. Had she misunderstood? Was this some sort of academic exercise? But as she retreated, her elbow brushed against a shelf, sending a beaker crashing to the floor. 3 human faces turned toward her, expressions shifting from surprise to calculation in an instant. "Kyrix," Professor Harlow's voice remained calm, friendly. "Working late again? Your dedication is admirable." Kyrix's survival instincts screamed. "Just forgot my notes," she managed, backing toward the door. "Wait," Harlow said, her smile, never reaching her eyes. "Since you're here, I'd like to discuss your latest findings. They're quite remarkable." That night, Kyrix transmitted an encrypted message to Admiral Krell before disappearing from Cambridge. The message contained fragments of research she had pieced together over months, evidence that human technological gifts had been systematically compromising Ixalti biology at the cellular level. 3 days later, Krell received confirmation that Kyrix's quarters had been found empty, her research destroyed in what university officials called an unfortunate laboratory fire. Krell, now operating through a network of loyal officers untouched by human influence, began a covert investigation. What they discovered horrified them: subtle genetic changes appearing in Ixalti populations closest to human settlements, modifications that seemed benign, increased resistance to certain pathogens, improved nutrient absorption, but with a hidden cost, decreased reproductive capability after 3 generations. "They're sterilizing us," Naxi whispered during a secure meeting in Krell's private chambers. "Not immediately, but eventually. They're engineering our extinction." "But why?" asked Recht, who had finally recognized the threat after discovering anomalies in supposedly improved Ixalti technology. "There are easier ways to destroy us if that was their goal." "They don't want our destruction," Krell realized. "They want our worlds, our resources, our place in the galaxy, and they want it all intact." The revelation was staggering. What had appeared to be humanity's greatest gift, technological salvation, was in reality a meticulously engineered downfall. "We cannot confront them directly," Admiral Krell declared to the assembled group of 30 trusted Ixalti. They met in the ancient tunnels beneath Ixalta Prime's northern continent, natural formations the humans' scanning technology had difficulty penetrating. "Their military capabilities outmatch ours," continued Krell, mandibles clicking in frustration, "and they've integrated themselves so thoroughly into our infrastructure that direct opposition would be suicide." Naxi stepped forward, her carapace bearing the marks of recent injury, a manufacturing accident that had occurred shortly after she began questioning human design specifications. "We've identified 53 critical systems now controlled by human technology," she reported. "Life support, food production, defense grids, all compromised." "Then we are already defeated," chittered Recht despairingly. "No," Krell's voice hardened. "Not yet. The humans have one weakness. They underestimate species they consider technologically inferior. The resistance grew slowly, carefully. Their greatest advantage was that humans couldn't read Ixalti facial expressions. The subtle antenna positions and mandible alignments that communicated volumes to other Ixalti were invisible to human perception. Using this natural encryption, they developed a network of operatives throughout Ixalti territory. Their first objective: create technology independent of human influence. In hidden laboratories, they reverse-engineered human innovations while carefully removing embedded vulnerabilities. They cultivated ancient, supposedly inefficient food, sources that required no human-designed enhancements. They established communication systems using frequencies humans had dismissed as useless. 6 months into their resistance, they faced their first major challenge when Ambassador Meridian requested permission to establish a new research facility at Ixalta Prime's South Pole, directly above the largest concentration of resistance tunnels. "The Council will approve it without question," Krell told his lieutenants. "We must evacuate immediately. If we abandon the tunnels, we lose our most secure meeting location," Naxi countered. "Perhaps we could redirect them." An unexpected voice joined the conversation. A younger Ixalti named Elzin, whose broodmate worked directly with human diplomatic personnel. "What if?" Elzin began hesitantly. We gave them exactly what they want. All eyes turned to the young technician. Explain, Krell demanded. The humans believe we're ignorant of their true intentions. What if we use that? What if we provide geological surveys that suggest the South Pole contains valuable minerals found nowhere else on Ixalta Prime? Understanding dawned in Krell's compound eyes. We lead them to destroy their own credibility. The plan worked with devastating effectiveness. When human excavation teams began operations that damaged sacred ancestral grounds, sites the Ixalti had deliberately omitted from official records provided to humans, public outcry was immediate and fierce. For the first time, the Council of Elders publicly questioned human intentions. Ambassador Meridian's response was tactical brilliance, a full apology, generous reparations, and the immediate cessation of all South Pole activities. But the seed of doubt had been planted in the collective Ixalti consciousness. The resistance seized this momentum, carefully orchestrating accidents with human technology that revealed hidden surveillance capabilities. Each revelation was subtle, enough to be explained away, yet damning enough to raise questions. As suspicion grew among the general population, humans accelerated their plans. New health initiatives were announced, mandatory treatments for all Ixaltian settlements with human presence. They're panicking, Krell observed. They know we're onto them. The stage was set for confrontation, but the resistance needed one final piece, irrefutable proof of humanity's true intentions that could be presented to the galaxy at large. The proof came from an unexpected source. Lysithea Kuri, one of the original 6 humans who had first set foot on the Ixalti station, reached out through encrypted channels to request a meeting with Admiral Krell. It's a trap, Naxi insisted when Krell informed the resistance leadership. Perhaps, Krell agreed. But she included information in her message that suggests otherwise, details about Project Harbinger that only someone with high-level human clearance would know. The meeting was arranged with elaborate precautions. 3 decoy locations, a series of unmanned drones to confirm Kuri arrived alone, and a final approach that required passing through narrow tunnels that would disadvantage the larger human. Physiology. When Kuri finally stood before Krell, she looked haggard, her human skin pallid. I was never supposed to see the full implementation plan, she began without preamble. My expertise is terraforming, making hostile environments habitable for humans. I didn't realize until recently that this included making inhabited worlds uninhabitable for their native species. She placed a data crystal on the stone table between them. This contains the complete Epsilon Protocol, the 50-year plan for Ixalti replacement. It includes genetic modification templates, infrastructure conversion timelines, population management projections. She paused, visibly struggling, and casualty estimates considered acceptable for maintaining the illusion of natural decline. Krell's antennae quivered with barely suppressed rage. Why are you betraying your species, Engineer Kuri? Because this isn't humanity's true face, she replied fiercely. This is a perversion orchestrated by the Hegemony Council, the military corporate, alliance that seized control after Earth's resource wars. Most humans don't know what's being done in their name. The revelation changed everything. Not just the tactical situation, but the philosophical underpinnings of the resistance itself. They weren't fighting humanity. They were fighting a corrupt human power structure that had weaponized first contact. With Kuri's help, they identified sympathetic humans within the integration program, scientists who had raised ethical concerns, administrators who questioned suspicious directives, soldiers uncomfortable with their deployment parameters. A plan formed that was audacious in its scope, simultaneous disclosure of the Epsilon Protocol across all communication channels in both Ixalti and human territories. The timing must be perfect, Krell stressed during final preparations. If we move too soon, the hegemony will shut down communications. Too late and they'll implement containment protocols. The day of reckoning arrived during the decennial celebration, a massive ceremony commemorating 10 years of human Ixalti cooperation. As Ambassador Meridian delivered platitudes about shared progress to billions of viewers across both species' territories, resistance operatives activated the broadcast override. The carefully crafted propaganda dissolved, replaced by the stark reality of the Epsilon Protocol. Population graphs showing projected exalti decline. Genetic modification templates designed to subtly cripple reproductive systems. Resource appropriation timelines. Colonization projections. And most damning, footage of Hegemony Council meetings where the replacement strategy was discussed with clinical detachment. Across 17 worlds, humans and exalti alike watched in stunned silence. The response was chaos, exactly as Krell had anticipated. While the hegemony scrambled to contain the damage, resistance cells activated Phase 2, the systematic disconnection of human control systems from critical exalti infrastructure. As the hegemony's representatives were detained by their own shocked human subordinates, Admiral Krell addressed the combined populations. "Today marks not the end of human-exalti relations," he declared, his translator conveying the gravity in his chittering speech, "but the beginning of true cooperation based on honesty and equality." One standard year after the exposure of the Epsilon Protocol, Admiral Krell stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, where humans and exalti had first met. Beside him stood Captain Matsuri Tanaka of the Prometheus, now the appointed representative of the reformed Earth coalition that had emerged from the hegemony's collapse. "The last of the compromised systems have been purged from Exalti Colony Secundus," Tanaka reported, her expression solemn. "The genetic damage is proving more difficult to reverse." Krell's mandibles clicked softly. "Engineer Corey's team believes they can develop a counteragent within 5 cycles. We are patient." Below them, Exalta Prime gleamed, its continents now dotted with new construction, as both species worked to rebuild what had been corrupted. The human settlements remained, but their purpose had transformed from beachheads of conquest to genuine cultural exchange centers. "Have you received the latest intelligence from the Morkalian sector?" Tanaka asked, her voice lowering despite the secure location. "Yes," Krell acknowledged. "The pattern is unmistakable. The former hegemony leadership that escaped justice has made contact with them." The Morkalians, a mammalian species whose technological development roughly paralleled Earth's pre-spaceflight era, had recently begun broadcasting signals indicating dramatic technological leaps. "They're using the same playbook," Tanaka said, grimly, "offering gifts to a species desperate for advancement. With one critical difference," Krell noted. "This time we know their methods, their weaknesses." What had started as a resistance against human encroachment had evolved into something far more significant, an interspecies alliance dedicated to protecting vulnerable civilizations from predatory first contact. The Joint Exalti Human Protection. Her initiative had already dispatched observer teams to 7 developing worlds, establishing discrete monitoring stations to watch for signs of hegemony interference. "The Morkalians will be different," Krell decided. "We will not hide in shadows. We will offer them truth from the beginning, show them both the wonders and dangers of rapid advancement. And if they choose the hegemony's path," Tanaka questioned, "then we will respect their sovereignty," Krell replied, while ensuring they understand exactly who they're dealing with. Later that evening, as Krell reviewed the latest recruitment figures for the initiative, Naxi entered his chamber, her carapace now bearing ceremonial markings of her new role as Minister of Interspecies Relations. "The human delegation has requested permission to establish a permanent embassy on Exalta Prime," she reported. "Not a settlement, an actual diplomatic mission with equal representation." Krell's compound eyes studied the formal request. "Approved," he decided, "with standard monitoring protocols. Trust but verify." Naxi quoted the human expression that had become the initiative's unofficial motto. "Indeed," Krell chittered in amusement. "We've learned much from our human allies, including their capacity for both tremendous good and devastating harm." As night fell across Exalta Prime, communication beacons activated across the system, transmitting a carefully crafted message to the stars. Not a distress call, but a warning and an offer. Information about the hegemony's tactics and an invitation to join the growing alliance of species committed to ethical first contact. Among the stars, Other civilizations listened. Some with hope, others with suspicion, all understanding the fundamental truth that the Exalti had learned at such great cost. The day your greatest hope appears may indeed be the day your darkest fear is born. But through vigilance, courage, and cooperation, even the darkest fears can be transformed into the foundation of something greater than either species could achieve alone. In the vast chamber housing the initiative's historical archives, a simple inscription had been carved in both human and Exalti script. Every species remembers the day their greatest hope became their darkest fear. But the wisest species remember what came after, the day fear gave way to understanding.